Hello and welcome to a explanation of how we will be actually doing a decision. But before we talk about decision, I'm going to take the whole thing to review in order to understand the sequences and also the selection and of course the looping. So I'm going to go ahead and do a big lecture explaining everything together. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the insert. I'm inside Excel, inside the Visual Basic screen. I'm sure you know it by now. We're gonna insert a modular, which I could really go here to the property and change the name of it if you want. But now we're gonna be actually starting to write the actual macro. Let's talk a little bit about sequence in programming in general, but we're obviously using the VBA for Excel in order to demonstrate this. Let's say here, I'm going to call sub, and I'm going to call how sequence works. Sequences work. So this is, I'm using the camel casing as a result of that. And as you know, it's going to be easy to read. You don't want to really go way too much with the name. So this is going to be okay. And here we go. So I entered, and it created for me the in sub. So anything that will be executed within the sub, also I could call it a macro, is going to be any line I wrote is going to be executed all at once. That's what macro is, multiple step in one event. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and tab in order to do the indentation of my code. Indentation is so important. If you don't do it, you are going to probably run the program correctly, but it's going to make it a nightmare for you to update it in the future, or worse, work with it on work on it with another employees or colleague, or of course classmate in your case. So I'm going to go ahead and first dimension. I'm going to use a non-meaningful names for my variable just to really speed up the process. So I'm going to go ahead and dimension A as integer, and I'm going to dimension B. This is not the right name. Of course, when you name your variable, they have to be derived from the meaning of what you're trying to assign them. Here, just to demonstrate the sequences. And here we go, dimension C as also integer. I could have done that as a double in order for me to get the decimal points. I could do it actually string if I want. Dimension, let's go ahead and get something like the word result, okay, as integer as well. So this is very logical. I did declare 4 variables here as A and B and C and result. The order of which of these variables I declare first doesn't matter, because the declaration, A is not really depending on B, B is not depending on C, C is not dependent on result. The same thing for every other variable. They are individual. They have to have their own storage in the memory. That's exactly what we have. Reserve 2 bytes for A, 2 bytes for B, 2 bytes for C, and 2 bytes for result. You know, if I change that to long, meaning if those 3 values, the variables exceeded 32,000, if they happens to be like, let's say 90,000, an integer will not be able to store it because it's too small for that large value. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. The second, when we use an assignment statement, also please keep in mind that when I say assignment statement, is really using the equal sign as an assignment statement, but also any reading from an input box, or reading from as we will see, from the sheet itself back to the macro. Those basically are going to be assigned statement or read statement, but no matter what we do, reading or assigning is going to end up with what we should expect, the value for that variable in the memory, until we override it, meaning reassign it. So if I say here, I'm going to assign A to 10, all right, and I'm assigning B to 20, just to speed up the process, and I assign C to 30. If I say result is result, of course, don't misspell here, no room for misspelling, A plus B plus C, and I wanted to, and I wanted to write the result into cells, let's say the second row and the second column So that's going to be actually B2, okay, because that's going to be yeah, B2. Anyway, I wanted to go ahead and assign this the result of the addition. So let's go ahead and click anywhere here. If there is any problem with this code, we will be able to locate it and correct it. So I did run it. Let's see if that is the case. It did actually write that to B2, the value 60s. Of course, I could have done this by saying cells to 1, I would say result, meaning to explain to the people what is this value. So I have to put it into double quotes because this is literally as it is, literal string. So if I run this again, as you will notice here, of course there is a mistake because I'm saying here cell without knowing that I misspelled it. Of course, you always have to go to refresh this by leaving the debug and go ahead and run it one more time, and you will see that the word result brought directly to A1, A2, and of course cells 22 is B2. And to prove this is the case, we could use the other. Let me go ahead and comment this so you could leave it there so we don't have to erase it. That means it's not going to act on it. But I could say here range, that's another way of writing it, between double quotes. Let's say here B1 rather, and that is going to be value. You could put that value if you want, and you're going to say here the word result, you know, a text result. Then range, this is B2, and whatever style you want. The first style, obviously, it's much easier to use later with arrays because arrays have an index, as you know, and the range is very quickly much more you know, approachable. If you know the cell that you wanted to write directly or range of cells, that will be very easy to do. You will decide that in the long run. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we of course no double quotes here because I'm showing the actual value of the variable result. If I run this one more time, hopefully we'll be able to see that we're going to get the same exact result without this one here was written by, let me see where did it go. That's B1. Okay, so this is going to be not B1, this is going to be A2. Okay, and of course we have to delete that one here. This is not going to be here, so also delete everything to see how it's going to run fresh. That's the best way to see what you have done. So let's go ahead and click on here, and I'm going to go ahead and run it. Go back to the screen, you'll see that's the same thing. Anyway, we learned this is actually the way to communicate with the sheet. The whole purpose from this class also to keep in mind, this is about automating the data inside the sheet. All right, so but what would actually create or wreak havoc when it comes to sequence? Some people use programming for a couple of years maybe, and they forget to concentrate on something that's very, very critical. Take a look at this statement. This statement, there is dependency. If I don't, in this case, care about which one comes first, because as a human, I always say ABC, but it doesn't matter to the compiler. But here, it does matter. Why? Because the result has to have the value of A, which is already been there and assigned, and it has a value in it. This has also B, which is 20, and C, which is 30. That's going to add to 60. What will happen if I violated, you know, killed, terminated the sequence as it's supposed to be by cutting this and putting it here? Okay, what happens here if I run this code? Look what's going to happen. It's going to give me the 30. Why? Because it already had A, B, but has no clue what C. So this is very merciful kind of environments. Like if you do that with C programming or other languages, it's going to shut the whole program down. You know, it's going to freeze it. Excel said, okay, I'm seeing a new variable. I have no clue what it is. It's already been declared, but nothing was put in it. It wasn't assigned or read into it. So this is a clear violation of sequence because you're using a variable before you read something into it or before you assign it a value. I hope this will stick in your mind. And please try to make sequence a it's very easy, but it's also very easy to mess it up if you really don't understand that you cannot ever use a variable in the right side unless that variable is declared and assigned or read into a value. So this has to be above the result in order for us to really get that result. Here we go. Of course, it doesn't have to be constants, 30 all the time. I could easily do that by saying input box, here we go, box, enter your value, or value, your value 1, or a value, or whatever you want to communicate to the result. Of course, this has to be enclosed between double quotes. And if you want to have a title for the screen, all right, the screen, then that would be also as good as say, here we go, let's go ahead and do that. Reading 8. And I could go ahead and avoid reinventing the wheel, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it here. See that? And this will be B. Here we go. And here we go, reading B. And also we'll have to put C here. Let's go ahead and align everything. All right, here we go. And I'm going to, of course, know what I'm pasting. Oh, here we go. All right. You know, this is alignment. You know, indentation is very easy to do. Okay, great. Now we know that this is also need to be changed to C, so it means something to the reader. I don't need these anymore. All right, because now I will be able to obtain A from the user, B from the user, and C from the user. Then I'll be able to add them. So this statement, if ever was cut and put in here, of course, this is going to give me 0 for the result when I print it, because the compiler has not seen the value of A, the value of B, or the value of C. It's very important for you to see that. Okay, so obviously the logic or the sequence demanded from me to put this after reading or assigning these two statements. So I'm going to go ahead and put it here, and let's see what's going to happen. So I'm going to run it, and it's going to ask me for the first value. I'm going to say here 56. The second value 34 point. I mean, we're all integers, so we don't have point. I will terminate, and this is 4. If you notice here, we're going to go to the cell. It's 94 based on dynamic values, not constants. All right, or variable as we call it. Maybe it's a good idea to stop here and send you other videos so you will not be bored to death. So I'm going to stop here, and we'll talk about the use of if statement in no time. Thank you.